as a someone starting their careers, would you suggest that they actually build a network with colleagues when we're going to tend to be much more in a remote first environment?
I went and worked at a company where on our floor there were hundreds of people that I could walk around and talk to and meet. When you got to meet and understand what they do for a living, you got to understand what they do for hobbies. You may see them after work, around the area. You built that network, you built those friendships. It's tough to do that through a screen. However, I think one, as we go to this more of this hybrid environment, take advantage of, hey, when there's times where groups are getting together and go into the office, take the time to go into the office and do that. If there are social clubs in the area tied to an expertise / domain that you work in, join those, right? Get involved with other things to do. Find ways to divide your time to maybe other social gatherings and such, because you still need that interaction, right?
How have you felt that mentorship or those kind of things have helped you progress in your career? And then how did you find those mentors throughout your career?
Mentorship definitely helps, especially so you can get the right guidance on your career, what you should be thinking about, how you can stay 2 to 3 steps ahead of where you want to be and start planning accordingly. They can also give you good advice on how do you handle situations or past experience on how things have been handled before. So I think finding a mentor, but finding a mentor that's not like you is very important, right? Because it's kind of like when you build a team. If you build a team that is comprised of everybody that is just like you, chances are it's not going to work out too well, because there's not going to be any challenge of opinion. There's not going to be a diverse set of thinking. It's just like in a sports team. If a football team is assembled and all 11 players were all quarterbacks, I don't think it'll work out very well, right? And same thing goes with the team that you build. So I think that's very important.
Do you think that you have any advice for students who are engineers about opening themselves up a bit more to the business opportunities and using that STEM knowledge to apply to the business?
I loved engineering work. I loved IT work, and I still do, and I really do. But don't be afraid to try something different, right? Somebody asked me, and my initial reaction was no way. And after some deep conversations, I said, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. So be willing to try something, because you may find that you take an expertise that you have through your studies or through a previous role, and then you apply it to a current role. And in my case, I was taking through one of my contract positions, I learned how to work on routers and switches at the time. And, I learned a lot about just networking in general, to where now all of a sudden I was brought into a project to help manage and drive dates and drive technology evolution through the things that I initially learned how to work on, and only just from a different capacity. So it just helped me be more effective in that position as a project manager, honestly.
And do you have any suggestions for engineers today in school in terms of getting themselves some exposure on the business side? Is it about taking a few classes in accounting and finance? Is there anything, or do you recommend staying very STEM heavy throughout the whole time?
My recommendation would be, yes, take classes and understand your neighboring business unit, right? Because no matter what you do when you're in an IT or technology field, there's a business component to it, right? Whether it's a business case or for the work that you're doing, or hey, there's some numbers that you have to, through that business case, that you have to put together to justify the work that you're doing. But yes, take some of those classes, but I would even take it a stretch further and stretch yourself. If you're still in school and you have an internship, or if you have a work study program or something that's in a completely different field, maybe try that just to see, because I think you would be surprised.
Do you think that that's also a big key of to drive someone's career is kind of
Absolutely.
taking on those other assignments rather than just my job is to do this engineering role?
Complacency can be, can be a killer, and especially in the tech world, right? Um, when somebody finds a job that they love, especially if they're a developer, an engineer and such, it's very easy for them to stay there and say, hey, I love doing what I'm doing. And then 7 years goes by and they realize they haven't grown. They haven't grown in their career. When I was asked, I stuck my hand up and I raised my hand. And I learned so much from that. And then when I've eventually said, you know what, I feel like I want to try to get into management, that's when I started looking at it and saying, okay, now what are my options? And so what was funny is some of my early manager roles were in spaces where I really wasn't the subject matter expert in that field, because and what helped me is it helped me lean on people to inform me and to make decisions versus, hey, I'm the expert in this field, and hey, go do this. And so you just learn how to manage differently. So I feel like if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have helped me in my career to progress as a manager and then eventually into leadership.
For students who are going to be graduating shortly, engineers specifically, about the future of Verizon, or where they might have a big opportunity, how do you kind of position the opportunities at Verizon versus other technology companies, or what are the opportunities potentially for students there?
What's nice about this company is that there's just a lot, we're just in a lot of different areas of tech, right? If you want to work in RF engineering, hey, I work in an area where I can go down the street and there's, 100 or so RF engineers and, performance engineers that know how to manage this network. But also, you can, wake up another day and you're working with people that they could learn how to build a complete IP network, right? And design that at large scale, right? Or, I can go up a floor at my office and sit down with developers and that are building applications, right? Or doing, some machine learning work on how to automate certain, events on the network, right? So there's so many different areas within the company that somebody can, explore. And as it goes back to your earlier question, is I think the beauty of it for somebody that would join is we encourage somebody to go try different things, right, and apply it. And I think that's great.